Good morning, everyone. I will now call the hearing to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. This morning I will be chairing the hearing. My name is Robert Hutchings. On my direct left is Ms. Linkletter. On my far left is Mr. Merritt, and the assessor representing the Assessment and Taxation Department is Mr. Valderrama. Our secretary today will be Ms. Rojo. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by this Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed out to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed further to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with this Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following their swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by cross-examination by the appellant first and then the panel members, and then the applicant's testimony, followed again by cross-examination by the assessor first, and then the panel members. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions based on the evidence presented here today. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. And please can everybody make sure their cell phones are on silent before we begin. Good morning. Ellen, if you could swear in both parties, please.
Please state your full name.
Ryan Valderrama.
You swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have the option to swear on the Bible or to affirm without it.
That's fine.
Please state your full name.
Keith Merkel.
And you swear the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Merkel.
Morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Valderrama. Okay. First property on the docket is 100 Transcona Boulevard.
Mr. Chair, just a preliminary matter.
Okay.
I just received this evidence from the applicant, so I
Okay.
just wanted to let you know about that.
Yes, okay.
So, yeah.
Would you like to review it first before we start with the first one? Take your time.
I guess I'll review it as he goes through the presentation.
Okay.
This is his presentation, so.
Okay, the first one on
I
the
just wanted
docket is...
to raise that and let you know about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
First one on the docket today is 100 Transcona Boulevard. When you're ready, Mr. Valderrama.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, property has a roll number of 04-007-261-535. It is located at 100 Transcona Boulevard, owned by Park City Commons JV Limited. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020, a reference date of April 1st, 2018, and we have it assessed at $1,066,000. Its classification or its property type is VRES2, and a zoning of RMU, which means residential mixed use. And the liability is taxable. On page 2 is the aerial photo of the subject property. And on page 3 is the zoning describing what is an RMU. On page 5, I do have the land sale comparables. And Mr. Chair, I would like to mention that all the comparables that I used are the same for all the other properties that we have in the docket.
Okay.
So the first comparable has a parcel ID of 04-00725-6580. It's located somewhere in Transcona Boulevard. It has a pack of VRS2 as well. Land area which is smaller than the subject property, about 14,207 square feet. Has a res multifamily zoning. And the date of sale was on February 1st, 2017. The sale price per square foot back then was at $19.71 for this comparable. Second comparable has a roll number or parcel ID of 04-007-256585. Same PUC, VRES2. Has a smaller land area compared to the subject property of about 13,119 square feet. A zoning of RMFS, which is a res multifamily. And the date of sale is again February 2017. And the sale price per square foot for this comparable is $21.34. Third comparable is located or has a parcel ID of 04-007-256590. It is located somewhere in Transcona Boulevard. Same PUC, VRS2. There's a land area of 13,119 square feet. A zoning of RMFS or res multifamily. The date of sale the same as the others, February 1st, 2017. And the sale price per square foot is about $21.34. Comparable 4 has a parcel ID of 04-007-05-2600. It is located at 226 Grassy Boulevard. There's a pack of VRES2 as well. A land area which is a bit small, again smaller than the subject property of about 14,428 square feet. Has a zoning of R1L, which is a residential large, single family large. A date of sale of about around August 12, 2014. A sale price per square foot of $26.34. Comparable 5 has a parcel ID of 04-007-255785, located at 1505 Molson Street. Has the same PUC as the subject property of VRS2. Land area of 168,994 square feet. Has RR5 zoning. And the date of sale is August 10, 2015. The last comparable has a parcel ID of 04-007-255795, located on Molson Street as well. And a PUC of VRES2. Has a land area of 126,068 square feet. Has an RR5 zoning. And the date of sale is September 30th, 2015. The sale price per square foot is $18.24. And from page 6 to page 8 are the aerial photos of the comparable land sales. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Merkel, any questions on the evidence presented by the assessor?
No, other than, we bought the property in December 17th. And so was there any consideration taken into the fact that we had an arm's length transaction and purchased it at that point?
Mr. Chair, based on the information that I've gathered in our email conversation with the applicant, or not specifically you personally, but another person from your company, I believe.
Yes, John, our control.
Yes. It was mentioned that there was a sale, I think as a wholesale or 7 rolls in one sale. And I guess I will have to let the applicant present his evidence. I think that's part of his evidence, and I will just make some clarifications on that matter as soon as he presents or after he presents, Mr. Chair. But in terms of answering the question, if I made a consideration, I reviewed the sale, and I'm in a position where I think, in my opinion, it is non-arm's length deal, That's my position, but
Okay.
he can prove me
Of course.
otherwise.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
And the reason why I believe that it is a non-arm's length deal is because there are related parties in the transaction, in terms of the seller and the buyer.
Okay.
So I guess without going into his evidence, I'll just maybe proceed with my questioning later on. That's
Okay.
part of my questioning as well.
Yeah, fair enough,
So,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
or more of clarificatory,
Yes.
rather than questioning.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else, sir, at this time?
No, I think that's,
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
As the assessor stated, we'll deal with the sale between the two parties
yeah,
when we get into it, okay?
it's kind of now related.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll leave it for later, once we get your evidence, okay? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Carrie, any questions of the assessor?
Yes, I'll just, Mr. Valderrama asked
Yes.
the all-around question. Did you have a chance to drive by this property, this parcel of land?
Actually, I quickly drove by it yesterday, just to see what's going on in the area, not just specific to this, to these properties, but also to the area. And yes, to answer your question, I drove by, yes.
Okay, thank you. Also, on page 3 of your brief, you talk about sort of the description of residential mixed use. But none of your comparables fall under that category.
Yes, my reasoning was, if I may, it's because I looked at the PUC on this one, instead of some other parameters, which maybe I should have narrowed it down more. I used VRES 2 instead of the zoning. I could have used zoning as well, and
Yeah.
yeah, and that's on me. I used VRES 2 instead of the zoning.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, because you used rural, residential,
That's correct.
multifamily as a comparable. And also the land area?
Yes, there, it's
kind of
small and
all
then.
over the map.
Big, yes, of course, yes. It's hard to pinpoint. Land area close to the subject property and close in terms of geographical proximity to the subject property. I found some that are really far, but I mean, there are other factors to be considered when, you know, choosing a comparable that's in the west of the city, north of the city. This is located in east of the city, so I tried my best to look for comparables within the same region or geographical proximity.
Okay. Thank you, that's all my questions.
Thank you.
Ron, any questions of the assessor?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Vanderama,
Yes, sir.
describe the subject property. It's, is it a vacant piece of land?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Um,
And it's,
vacant piece of land.
you know, 1.5 acres?
Roughly, yes.
Okay.
When I was there, driving by, I wasn't able to see on this part because the fence, I mean, I don't know if it's my height or something, no, I'm just teasing you guys. It's somewhat, it has a chain link fence and there's somewhat cover, so I had to be a little bit resourceful and turned on this street and saw a little bit of a view of the entire parcel, not just the specific subject property, but the entire 7 parcels. And I couldn't. There's something going on, which I wanted to clarify later on in my questioning. There's some work being done. I'm not sure if it's in preparation to do something to develop the land or whatever. But in terms of your question, sir, it's fronting Transcona. It has an access, and I believe it's not landlocked. And I'm not sure what the plan is for the future on this one, but it looks like it's good for residential, multifamily, and then mixed use as per the zoning, or just plain residential multifamily, without any commercial on the main floor or in the property.
So in your estimation, you can't really determine, other than you think it's residential, it might be commercial, or It's,
Driving
but it's
by-
vacant land.
It is vacant land. Driving by the area, it's, this specific property is not adjacent to some commercial retail complex by east of these properties right here. There is a grocery store, there's some retail complex. I believe it is in the corner, somewhere in the corner of Transcona, on the east side, on this side. So converting this to a commercial piece of land may be feasible. I mean, it depends on the developer in the end, if they wanted to put this as a commercial zoned or residential zoned. But for now, it is residential zoned, multifamily, residential multifamily or residential mixed use. So I think that's the best use for it for now.
And I see that of the three first comparables, it's all the same and the square foot rate has been cranked out and it's fairly close, but looking at comparable sale number 4, is Grassy fairly close to the subject property? You know, like, I know where it is in it, but, you know, and what about?
Grassy is somewhere in the northern region of Plessy, and it's actually northwest of the subject property. And so goes with Molson. The closest one is 618 Transcona, or is I think the comparable 3.
And why would you put in comparable sale number 5 and number 6 when they're, you know, substantially higher? You know,
In terms of
area-wise.
Yeah, again, as I mentioned earlier from answering Ms. Linklater's question, I looked at the PAC as my first parameter, and then I looked at the area of where there are sales. And so these ones came up, and yeah, they are, I believe, yeah, you're right, I'm in agreement that these two comparables are way bigger than the subject area, the subject property.
Okay, I thank you, Mr. Van Der. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, Ron. So, Mr. Valderrama, I guess we've had a sneak at the appellant's evidence, although it's not been introduced yet. We've got it in our hand here. These are all separate roll numbers we've got on the docket from 100. I guess they're all adjacent properties.
Yes, they are.
They've been a land bank to create a larger development area, I believe.
Well, without going into the presentation of the
Yeah.
applicant or information, maybe we can ask him later.
Okay, yeah.
I think in our records, this came from one roll number going into few roll numbers,
Okay,
so it's a subdivision.
oh, so it was subdivided, okay, I see.
I think that's so far that's how it is.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
sure
Yeah,
going forward if they're going to merge all of these or not, but
Yeah,
again,
okay.
I mean that's a question that maybe
yeah,
we'll
we'll
clarify with the
determine that,
applicant,
okay.
yes. Because I don't know what the future is and what the future plans of the developer is.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you haven't included that 20, I believe it's the December 2017 sale, because in your opinion, it's
And
possibly non-bonafide, but again, we'll deal with that when
Yes,
we get into
yes.
the appellant. Okay, okay, yeah, all right. And from your comment to Mr. Merritt, so your determination, what you're looking at first is the vacant res 2, which allows for multifamily development.
That's correct,
And that's
Mr.
the
Chair.
common factor in all the comps you've provided.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. And of course, I mean geographical region as much as possible
Yeah.
closest to the property.
Yeah, okay. So you've stuck within the eastern side of the city. Of
Yes.
course, you can't manufacture sales, so in your opinion, this is the best comparables for that location, all right?
Only thing I can manufacture is a beef.
Yeah. And lastly, normally, is it the policy of the department not to do a time adjustment for land sales? I guess there's,
Well, I believe there is a time adjustment on these ones. However, I do agree with how this one is formatted, where time adjusted sale price per square foot or sale price is not included. Simply because I'm in an opinion where, you know, you would see a trend if you look at the dates, if you see the dates, the actual purchase
Okay.
time and purchase price.
Yeah.
So if, you'll see if it's going up, going down, or it depends on a lot of factors too. But in terms of the dates, I would like to keep that constant, when they were sold, when they were bought, and how much they are.
okay, so in your opinion, as an assessor, from your experience, the 2014, and I'll say comp 4, 5, and 6, sold in 2014 and 2 in 2015, in your opinion, has the land value increased? If we go to the April 1st,
Oh, yes, 2018, yes.
Yeah,
I
as
believe.
compared to 2018 for high-density development land?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's all my questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Merkel, when you are ready, please.
Okay, I think I'll put we should back up and I'll give you some context on the property. And I think that the assessor's brief, if we go to that second page of it,
Okay,
it actually, I'll talk a bit about how we got here and it addresses the non-arm's length transaction. So this property is commonly known as 1500 Transcona or 1500 Plessy Road, which was an old city yard. It was a 40-acre city yard,
Oh, okay.
which the councillor convinced the city to put Transcona Boulevard and bisect it, leaving 23 acres roughly to the south of Transcona Boulevard and around 13 acres to the north. The city then entertained a sale of this property, which the 23 acres that is in question here, or part of my property is in question, and they didn't have any buyers. They subsequently put out an expression of interest for a joint venture partner to help them remediate and develop. This property as a city yard was highly contaminated, and AMEC had estimated around $8 million to clean it up. Most of the contamination had to deal with salt contamination because it was an old city yard where they used to mix salt with the sand as such. So we put in a proposal to the city to become their joint venture partner, and we became 50-50 partners with the city in an entity called Park City Commons Joint Venture. And our mandate as the developer managing partner of the property was to clean it up, and that involved demoing buildings that had asbestos. It involved removing hydraulic tanks, old gas tanks, and getting it in a position to sell it. As part of the joint venture agreement, we had an option to buy it from the joint venture, subject to an appraisal and subject to the joint venture board approving it. The joint venture board is made up of the area councillor, the director of PP&D, and us. So there's 3 votes. We're a third of the vote on the sale, and we would have to, if we were to buy it from the joint venture, we would have to get it appraised, bring it to the joint venture board, and the joint venture board would have to approve it. So is it non-arm's length? There's a third vote on a joint venture board. We don't control, and so the city actually controlled the vote, and they voted to accept our offer of purchase of the land. I think then I'll turn over to my brief, and I'll just kind of walk through. So all 7 parcels are subject to this application. So this, as part of the joint venture, we took the 23 acres and we subdivided it. There's just over 11 acres that was subdivided to CMU, commercial mixed use, and the other part was kept as residential mixed use, because before the city put it out for expression of interest, they had rezoned it to residential mixed use, the whole 23 acres. We then subsequently took 11 of it and rezoned it commercial mixed use, and we left the other 10.9, which is in question here. The only thing we did was we subdivided the property into multiple lots as part of the joint venture mandate. We negotiated the purchase price over a period of 2 years with the city. The transaction closed on December 2017, and the agreed price was 6.564, or 600,000 per acre. Attachment 1 to my brief is the final sale agreement, which was signed on December 15th.
What page is that, sir?
It's attachment 1, so if you, it's
Okay.
the 4th page in.
Right, thank you.
Okay. It was based on appraisal done by Ferguson Associates dated May 12th, 2017. The range in the appraisal was 523 per acre to 600,000, so the purchase price was at the high side of the appraisal. The purchase price was adjusted post-closing to 6.2 million by agreement on May 25th, 2018, based on a reduction in the total acreage in respect of a common road referred into within the definition of developable acres. So if you go back to the assessor's brief here, where there's that round circle in the picture, on the bottom picture, there's a round little circle.
Page 2, okay.
Yeah, so you can kind of see the formation of a road that bisects the property. And that common road, we weren't responsible for paying for the common road, because it was half to the north, to the east side and half to us. So the common road wasn't part, so that was the adjustment. As stated, the vendor was a joint venture. The city held 50% interest in the joint venture, and we held a 50% interest in the joint venture, but the joint venture is managed by a committee of 3 parties. There are several attributes to the parcels which affect their values. The lands are affected by salt and other contaminants. The joint venture was constituted for the purpose of remediating the lands, and the purchaser, through its sister corporation, remains responsible for half the cost of remediation. So the remediation that remains with the land is the salt. So salt isn't a carcinogenic, and so salt, if you plan your property correctly, you can bury salt or encapsulate it by paving over top of it. And so there's a certain amount of salt that remains on the property that will have to be managed by us in order to mitigate the cost of the joint venture. And if it doesn't, then we'll have to bear half the cost if we can't plan around it. Parcels 100 through 140 Transcona Boulevard are effectively one. So if you go to my attachment 3, I have a drawing of all the parcels. It's done by Barnes and Duncan. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, which this is subsequently, this is we did a short form subdivision subsequent before this hearing. But anyway, regardless, those 1, 2, 3, the 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, they're effectively one. So there's some access problems and some cost sharing problems in relation to services and landlocking. So like for instance, 120 Transcona Boulevard would be landlocked if in the event that if somebody was to buy it. So there's inherent challenges with, unless you develop it as a group, you're gonna have difficulty selling it. An easement runs along the southeast border of 110, 120, and 130. So if you, again, looking at that diagram, if you look at the bottom here, there's a feeder main that goes down the bottom of the property. And that feeder main has a restriction that nothing can be built on it or within that area. No structure and limited penetrations to the soil in that regard. And then number 4, there's 2 separate easements in favor of Manitoba Hydro. So Hydro has an easement here for a major transmission line. It's a 6 kVA line, which is a very high transmission line. So you can't build within that easement, and you need to be 15 to 25 feet back of that easement, if you're gonna do any kinds of multifamily or residential. And then on this side of the property over here, they have another major transmission line that runs parallel to the railway line. And again, that one there, the poles are inside the property, and it would be, $300,000-$400,000 to move the poles outside the property. And then again, you have to build so many feet back from those poles, so 15 to 25 feet. So there's inherent challenges with hydro and that easement in planning and developing the property. So we just summarized some of the discussions with the assessor. They were informal, but because the purchase price was adjusted May 25th, which is after April 1, the adjusted purchase price for the lands can be taken into consideration. With respect, given the purchase price was amended some 6 weeks after the reference date, according to the definition of developable acres in the original agreement, and given that the adjusted purchase price was fully 20% lower than the proposals, it seems ludicrous not to take the actual purchase price into account. Even if the adjusted purchase price cannot be taken into account because it was May 1, the initial purchase price of $6,546 was reflected in the December 2017 closing. The purchase price is lower than the proposed assessed value can be explained by a volume discount. So I know that the assessor had mentioned we got a volume discount. The vendor was the city of Winnipeg, and the price was subject to hard negotiation over a period of approximately 2 years. An appraisal was completed and the parcels were purchased at the top of the range. As noted, it would be difficult to sell 100 through 140 other than as one parcel. So there was no quantity discount, and the board of the JV had to vote. The land is contaminated, and the benefit that we had by buying that land is we were understood, because we had lived it for 2 years and tried to clean it up. We lived it and we knew what the contaminations were, and we had the ability to plan for some of those, being the salt for the main one, to bury it. And so to sell it into the marketplace, what we found when we entertained anybody looking at it was the hydro lines became a major discount that they wanted. They wanted major discounts for contamination and major reserves. And we just felt that from the joint venture's perspective and from our perspective, because of our intimate knowledge of the land, that we can maximize the purchase price by buying it ourselves as opposed to putting it to the market. So the JV looked at it that way, and the appraiser looked at it, and his appraisal was subject to some key assumptions that we could redevelop that site into something better than it was because it was such a contaminated site. The assessment division, the easements have to be considered in the value of the property. I'm not sure of the comparables that were presented by the assessor, but those easements are challenges. That water main easement, if it was to break, it would flood Transcona, is what I've been told. And water and waste on every drawing we get back gets a major stamp with a major caveat that anything that we want to do in that space has to be approved and that we can't build in that space. And hydro, to move the line on this side of the property that's over here that bisects 150 Transcona Boulevard has given me an estimate of $1.6 million if I wanted to move the line off the property. And on the line or the poles that are on this side of the property, it's somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000. So you have to plan around it, and you have to work within the realm of what you have. So our conclusion is the fair value of the property should be what we paid for it was $6.2 million, and the assessments should be amended to reflect it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Merkel. Mr. Valderrama, any questions? Now, what we have to consider here is that we're dealing with one parcel at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So we need an estimate of what you think 100 Transcona Boulevard
So
should be assessed at.
Yeah, so at the last
Yeah.
page, what we did was I should have walked you through this, and I apologize for that. On the last page, we took each of the properties and we adjusted them to say, here's the actual purchase price that we paid per property on the far right column,
Okay,
which adds to the 6.207. And then we took Mr. Is it Valdez? Yeah, we took his price, adjusted out the easement areas, and we came to a price of 6 million and adjusted them accordingly. That's the column before ours, the third last column. So for instance, if we took his price and adjusted out any easement area, there's none on 100, so it stays at the 1066, but if we adjust 110, it goes to 878, 879, and he comes to, his based on his value would be 6,079,000, and then if we took our actual purchase price and just put it beside how we had allocated the properties.
okay,
Does that make sense?
yes, perfect. So we'll be referring to this table, but we'll refer to them individually. Okay, so we're dealing with 100 Transcona Road.
Yeah.
So you are asking, would you mind summarizing what you're asking for? And this is, you've factored in, well, in this case, there's no easement allowance
Right, so that,
reduction, okay?
yeah.
So
And
you-
the next property, we're just saying it should be 807, 877, that's
Yeah.
what we bought for it.
Okay, but dealing with 100 Transcona Boulevard, you're asking for the assessment to be revised to
35,440.
$1,035,000, okay,
And then the next one to 807,
okay,
and then in respect of 120 to 836.
okay. Yeah, we'll deal with those individually, okay?
Okay.
Let's just stick with the 100 Transcona Boulevard, okay. And you're asking for 1306 a square foot, which is the purchase price, right? I believe. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Valderrama, I thought we'd get that. Does that make sense?
Yes. So, yeah, just some.
Any questions of the
clarification.
appellant?
Yeah, just some clarification.
Yeah.
In terms of the contamination issue that was brought up, was it remediated already?
The hydrocarbons and there was some hydraulic oil and that has been taken care of. The salt hasn't been taken care of. The salt has been left there to be managed around where you can put it on the property, either to build up parking lots, if you can bury it in parking lots, but to the extent that it can be buried under a parking lot, it would have to be taken off-site.
Okay. In terms of my drive-by that I did, there was an activity going on this side of the, well, it is the east side of the, what street was that? Of the 7 properties. I believe it's
Bienvenue.
Benvenue, yeah, correct, you're right. The east side of it. There's activities going on in there. What is it related to, if I may ask?
On this 100 Transcona Boulevard, we're currently building a mixed use.
Okay, so it's starting, right?
Yeah, we started to build a building on that property.
Let's see. And,
Sorry, what address is that?
100.
On 100, okay, subject property, okay.
And there's and the same issue, contamination issue. So the activity there is not related to rehabilitation or remediation of the contamination. Is that fair to assume?
Well, it has to be, the soil has to be moved
Mm.
for the first meter and a half,
Right.
to 2 meters off that property before you can do anything.
Okay.
And then it's moved, put in position, and you determine whether you can reuse it.
And were these properties, any of these properties, or specifically 100 Transcona, were they even registered at the contamination site list of the province of Manitoba, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are, okay. And.
We have clearance letters for our salt remediation plan, so the
Okay.
Manitoba Sustainable Environment said your remediation plan of excavation within 10 meters of a foundation is a good plan, and your ability to leave it underneath a parking lot or basically vacant land is fine, I would say.
So if the portion that's contaminated, if a parking lot is built, it's fine, right? So
It can
it's,
stay there, yeah.
it's good enough, yeah. The hydro poles, you mentioned that they would need to be moved, correct? Or
Well, you
are they
can
being
leave them
planned?
there and not move them and plan around it, or you can pay them $1.6 million and move them.
Mhm.
So, at
Is there a plan
$1.6
to
million, it just makes it unaffordable.
No, okay.
You can't amortize that cost into the land or any development.
Correct. So, and then the final transaction, I guess the closing date would be May 25th, 2018, and not December 2017.
Well, the
Would
deal
that be fair to
closed,
say?
no, the deal closed December 15, 2017. Land transferred and there was it was in a bear trustee, that all transferred. On May 25th, 2018, the purchase price was amended by some $300,000 because the developable acres of that middle road
Right.
wasn't calculated correctly when they closed, so we had to amend the agreement and make an adjustment for it.
And the seller and the buyer, part of the seller is the current owner, correct?
Yeah, because we own 50% of the joint venture,
joint
and
venture.
the city owns 50% of the joint venture.
Oh, okay. And
We don't control the joint venture, we're
No.
partners with
No, okay. In terms of the money paid, did it go 50-50 between the seller or the two sellers? The joint venture between the other company and the city of Winnipeg? Or did it go to city of Winnipeg entirely?
them. It went to the city of Winnipeg entirely because we already owned one half the property. So
Oh,
we
okay.
didn't
So
have to
the
pay for
6.2 million is half, basically, or a proceed to buy out?
They got half of the 6.2 is what, if somebody was to buy it, this is gonna be, I don't wanna confuse you, but 6.2 is the total amount. They got half of the money.
Okay. So the city, you bought them out by giving them half of the proceeds of 6.2?
Right, because I already own half, right?
Okay, and it was mentioned that there is 2/3 voting power by the city,
Yes.
is that correct?
The JV board is constituted by 3 people. The
Okay.
area councillor, the director of not director of PPD, the councillor who runs the property and planning development board, and then one more party from our company.
Okay.
So there's 3 votes.
I think that's all the questions that I have, Mr. Chair,
Okay,
or clarifications.
thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, are you working on something?
I'm working on
Okay.
something, if you
Carry.
don't mind.
She'd like to go first.
So, Mr. Merkel, when you entertained the idea of buying half this property, you were well aware of the contamination then?
Yeah, we were intimate with the issues involved in the property.
So you had to remove, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here, gas tanks, et cetera? Or gas tanks were removed?
Yeah, the city was responsible entirely for the removal of the gas tanks
Okay,
and the hydraulic oils.
okay.
We were responsible for removal of all of the city buildings which had asbestos in them and certain stuff left behind and was needed to be done.
And you said it was approximately $8 million to clean up?
That was an estimate that was given by AMAC of $8 million to clean up the whole property.
And how much indeed was?
The joint venture, because we came up with a plan to manage the salt on site, we were able to bring that cost down to about $2.5 million.
So from 8 million to 2.5, and that cost was shared with the city?
Yes. And any further costs that we find on the land will be shared with the city.
So any further costs, say, next year will be shared by the city?
Because it's registered, like if we were to find a hydrocarbon tank, that would have to be shared by the city.
Even though the sale has gone through?
Well, environmental law, the environmental issues
Okay.
kind of hang with whoever owns it.
So, sorry, I know you talked about this. So this board, when you entered the 50/50 partnership with the city, was managed by 3 people. Somebody from your company?
Yeah, it was myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
The area councillor?
Right.
So the city councillor?
Yeah, right, Russ Wide was Transcona, so he was, and at the time it was, not John Kieran, it's from Fort Rouge area. He was head of PP&D there for, or, not the PP&D, but he was on the standing policy committee.
Okay.
Can't think of his name.
Okay, and I'm just wondering, when this sale in your brief was amended,
Yeah,
who brought, like, was that you yourself that brought that to the city's attention, that you weren't gonna pay for the road portion?
it was in the original agreement, it said on the purchase price was based on developable acres, and it was defined that road piece was, so it was technically an oversight by the lawyers and everybody involved.
Okay.
That they should have had an adjustment for that in the calculation. So when we were preparing the JV year-end, on review, the accountants, the auditors said, I think there's an error in the calculation.
And these were your accountants, your auditors?
No, the JV has to appoint
I
appoint
see.
the auditor, for the JV's books are audited annually by an external one.
Okay. Okay, thank you, that's all my questions.
Thanks, Carrie. Mr. Merritt, still calculating?
One more calculation
Okay.
here. Okay, I just want to see something, okay. We have quite a presentation here, so, there's a difference of what you paid and what you negotiated, and the difference is like 300,000.
Right.
Okay, so where did that come into play, or how did that come into play?
If this if you don't mind if I approach this, but this property, if, in context, if I was to show you, this picture was taken when they started to build the grocery store over
Sorry,
here.
Mr. Valderrama.
It's okay.
Oh,
It's okay. I can
sorry.
see it. I can see it.
Yeah.
So there's a road that's gonna go right to bisect, basically, this is the RMU side of the property, and this is the CMU property. The land area that went towards the road was not to be paid for by either side of this transaction. So that wasn't considered developable acres. Okay.
So I'm just, there's all kinds of things here. You had talked about the contaminated land,
Yeah.
but that's via the salt. It wasn't,
The majority of it's salt, 6.2 million of that $8.2 million price was estimated to be salt contamination.
okay,
And that price, how AMEC had come up with that number was to basically go in and strip a meter off of that whole land, haul it away, and bring back a whole meter of clean fill. And so,
so would it, like there's a contaminated list, did it make the contaminated list?
yes, it was,
It did, hey? And because of the salt?
it made the list because of the hydrocarbons that were on there, the salt, and there was hydraulics, and there was asbestos in the buildings. Because there was the whole city maintenance building
Okay.
was,
So this entire acreage was 40 acres?
it was 40 acres at one point, the city bisected it with Transcona Boulevard. and
Yeah.
The bottom half was
Okay.
about 23 and the top
Okay.
half's about
And
the difference.
so, did you buy 23?
We ended up buying this side, which was.
Yeah.
Which is in question here,
Okay.
and we did end up buying the other side as
Okay.
well.
Okay. So, where did the $600,000 per acre come into play? I wrote that down, but I'm not sure.
Oh, so we had, under our JV agreement, we had an option to buy the property from the JV based on an independent appraiser's assessment of the property, and that had, and the assessment, or the assessor, or the evaluator would have to be approved by the JV board. So we picked the JV picked an appraiser. He went out and appraised it, and he came back and presented, here's the appraisal of the land, and it was a range, and we bought it at the top of the range, 600,000.
Was it a local appraiser?
Yeah, it was for Brett Ferguson.
Oh, Mr. Ferguson, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I'm just looking at what you paid, which was 6.2.
Yeah.
And the assessed value comes to close, well, it's about 7.9. So the discrepancy is like 1.7 where you're at. But you feel in total wise, it should be the 6.2.
Yes.
Okay, and, but I'm just looking at your last page here in
Yep.
regards to attachment number 5.
Yep.
And you've cranked out a purchase price for the development, per square foot.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't it be sort of consistent in regards to, putting a value on it? Like, you have here a different value that goes from like $13 up to 22.
Because when we just took the purchase price and divided it by the number of acres.
Okay. Just the mathematics of it.
Yeah, so we were just, that, for our purposes and for tax purposes, we just did it that way.
You invested, I think you said $8 million in cleanup?
That was the estimated cleanup.
Okay.
Our share of the cleanup and contributed, we had to, as part of the joint venture, we had to put in sewer and water on Transcona Boulevard. We had to service the area, and there, we had to do multi-use pass. So our total investment prior was $3 million in off-sites and other costs.
Okay. So as it stands, you have 8.5 acres, correct?
8.5 usable,
Usable.
and
Okay.
the difference is, again, can you plan around it and make them usable?
Yeah. And residential and possibly some commercial?
On these, it's zoned residential mixed use, so you can have spaces of 5,000. It doesn't have the best frontage because it's buried, it's buried kind of in the back of the frontage to Plessy. So we think it'll be predominantly residential, multifamily.
So my final question would be, when Ferguson evaluated the property, that was on all parties that they looked at the appraisal and settled on the price, or is that how the transaction went?
I don't understand.
I guess before you made the offer, the appraisal was done, and then the appraised value was, on all parties looked at and settled on a price at that point?
Yeah, he gave a range of,
Yeah.
he did on comparables, he was at 600 an acre.
Yeah.
And he did it on a net present value, and
Okay,
he was at 523.
okay,
And so we settled on 600.
okay.
And I paid 600 because I didn't want anybody to say that I took the city, and if we paid at the top of the value, how can you argue that somebody didn't negotiate properly? Because it was at the time when the city was under a fair amount of scrutiny because of the police headquarters and that, and we just thought it was best to pay the top dollar, and we were gonna live with it.
Okay, I thank you very kindly, thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Okay, Mr. Merkel. So my understanding firstly is that all remediation is complete. or the practice that you're setting up to contain the salt contamination has been accepted. So basically, we have no contamination problems on the site.
We have a contamination problem if I can't manage it according to the plan that was signed off by Manitoba Sustainable.
Okay,
So if I end up with 10,000 cubic meters of soil that was contaminated with salt, and I can't bury that under a parking lot,
okay.
then I need to haul it off lot.
Okay, and my understanding is the city would be responsible for half of that bill? Okay, right. Now, the easements, you've detailed 2 hydro lines, one on the, I think it's the west side, one down the middle,
Yep.
and then obviously a main water main on this, I think it's the south side of the
Yes,
property?
yep.
Okay, and then you've, on your attachment 4, you've removed those areas from the selling price. So I think it's around 2745. About approximately 100,000 square feet, would that be fair? Of easement area that you removed, 40, 60.
65, 85. Yeah, it's close, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I took that, what I did was I took the appraiser's assessed value and I adjusted it for the easement areas
Yeah. Now,
to see how close it comes to what I paid for.
now, when you purchased the property for $600,000 an acre, all those easements were in place, and you were aware of them, and you were willing to purchase it at 600,000. So I'm wondering why you would remove it from the purchase price.
From my purchase price or his assessed value?
No, your purchase price.
I didn't remove it from my purchase price. My purchase price is 6.2 million.
But you're.
What I did remove it, I removed it in the
Right.
calculation of trying to take his assessed value and saying, if you took into account the areas that are with easements, you'll come very close to my number. It's 6,079,000.
Okay, but what, you are removing the value of the easements. You assigned a value, a negative value, or an area that should be removed, and reducing the selling purchase price per square foot, or am I misreading this?
I think you're misreading it, if I understand you correctly.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, when we had a talk with the assessor, we
Yeah.
said, you're not taking into, here's your value, here's our value. You're not taking into account the fact that this area, that these easements limit the value of the property. So if you were to take your number, your assessed value, and adjust it for the easement areas, and saying deduct that land mass from you would come to a number very similar to ours, of 6,679,000 versus what I paid for it is 6.2.
Okay. Okay, so you paid 6.2 million, and we're assigning purchase price to this property at 100 Transcona Boulevard at we'll say $1,036,000
Yeah.
in purchase price. Okay. Now, so what was that including, is this after the remediation costs were factored in, or are we to add the remediation costs into the purchase price? Because you purchased it for $6 million, is that right?
6.2.
Okay,
Six.
but you knew that you were gonna be responsible for, you thought, another $4 million from an estimate?
No.
No, okay.
It could be as much as 0 if I can manage it
Okay.
properly. under
But the
parking.
number that was presented to JB was $8 million.
That's what AMEC gave them a study.
Okay.
Before they went to market at 8 million. We've
Yeah.
successfully brought it back down to around 2 to 2.5 million.
Okay, so you paid $6 million plus 2
No.
for the remediation?
No, we paid 2 million
Yeah,
to remediate the property.
okay. Plus the $6 million to purchase it.
Yep.
So your acquisition is actually $8 million, if you include the remediation.
My acquisition's half of the
Okay.
remediation costs, and
$7 million.
half of the purchase price.
Okay. And then now, let's talk about the other investment you made or were required to do, was the sewer and water at $3 million. That was over and above the purchase price?
Yeah, that was, I bought the land originally for, I bought my 50% of the land for $375,000
Per acre,
total.
375.
It was assessed at $750 by the city, I had to buy 50% of the land from them for $375,000.
Okay, but I'm asking about the investment of the 3 million to service the.
The 3 million then from the 375, or what my initial purchase, I had to pay half the offsite costs, and the sewer and water, I had to pay half the remediation costs.
Okay.
And then once we got it to a point of saleable property, then we could put it to the market to buy it, to sell it.
I guess what I'm getting at is, was the purchase price driven down by the expected costs for sewer and water and remediation?
No, it was all done when I bought it.
It was all done when you had bought it?
The only thing left was that salt contamination that existed still on the property that I had to manage my way through.
Okay. And right now, there's under construction at this subject property at 100 Transcontinental Boulevard. The other, I might as well deal with this now, the other parts have been subdivided, you subdivided as shown on the map by.
Yeah, and that was done by the JV.
Okay, and what's gonna be the use of those? What's proposed use?
It's zoned RMU, it could have been zoned RMFM, the councilor wanted it zoned RMU, and that was, we inherited it zoned RMU, so it'll be residential. We think it's gonna be multifamily.
Okay, so the current one, the subject property, is it a 12-story condo?
It's a 6-story apartment.
6-story, as income property or condos?
No, yeah,
Rentals, okay. And getting to the assessor's concern, I guess when the board, you were one of the 3 members of the board, to, would that require a majority vote, or would it just be, did all 3 parties have to agree to the sale, or was it 2 to 1, for instance?
It had to be on the sale, I believe it was unanimous.
Unanimous, okay. Not majority, okay. Okay.
And it was unanimous to accept it, and it's a board which is heavily relies on the real estate division of the city, because they attend the board meetings, so you have the head of real estate division is there, head of land development is there.
Yeah.
Because it's.
Yeah, I'm not implying anything bad, I'm just trying to get.
Oh, no, I'm
information.
just giving you some context.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
It's heavily scrutinized, it has, the sale finally has to be signed off by the chief administrative officer of the city.
Yeah,
He signs off on the final sale,
okay.
so it goes through a very onerous, rigorous
Yeah,
review.
it's, you probably have the access to that appraisal that was done by Mr. Ferguson.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. We don't have it present here, presented, but only one appraiser was hired. There wasn't a second appraisal required to get some kind of a balance opinion?
No, we had to agree on an independent appraiser.
Just one,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. That is all my questions. And you're asking us to revise the assessment from 1,066,000 down to 1,000,000, rounded 35,000.
Yeah,
on
I
this
mean,
particular property.
probably my erroneous way of dealing with it, but we dealt with it as a block. And so we just said we paid 6.2 and divided it,
Yeah,
and that was,
okay. Yeah, it's kind of tricky to do all 6, and especially when you purchase it as a parcel.
well,
But
and
that's the
then
analysis.
what's,
Yeah.
you know, you'd argue the ones with the easements are probably worth a lot less than the ones there are the others. No, and so we kind of just said, hey, we paid 6.2 million.
Yeah, okay,
Once we figure it out.
okay. But this subject property has no easement issues, so, okay. All right. Mr. Valderrama, any requirement for a summary on this property?
No.
No, okay. Mr. Merkel, any requirement for a summary?
No, I think
Okay. And we're gonna be referring to this sheet for each individual property as we go through it. Okay. All right, so that concludes 100 Transcona Boulevard. Does anybody need a break?
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna take a break for 10 minutes, please.
Thank you.
Okay, I will now call the hearing back to order. Next property on the docket is 110 Transcona Boulevard. And item number 2 on the docket, right? Mr. Valderrama, when you are ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next property has a roll number of 04-007261530. It is located at 110 Transcona Boulevard. We're dealing with the roll year of 2020, reference date of April 1st, 2018. It is assessed at $998,000. It is taxable as a liability, and the property type is a VRES 2 or vacant residential 2, with the zoning of RMU, which is a residential mixed use. It has a land area of 54,038 square feet. And on page 2 is the aerial photos, or the aerial photos of the subject property, and 3 is the zoning, explaining the zoning used on the property, or zoning applied on the property. And on page 5 are the land sale comparables, which are the same as the previous one, and the pictures of the comparable land sales from pages 6 to 8. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so these are just the same, since it's a new hearing, would you mind quickly going over the comparisons?
Sure.
Selling price per square foot and zoning,
Okay.
please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first one has a parcel ID of 0400725658. The selling date is February 1st, 2017, and a sworn value of, or a sale price of $280,000. Comparable 2 has a roll number of 0400725685. Again, sold on February 1st, 2017, with a sale price of $280,000. Comparable 3 has a roll number of 040072565590. Again, sold on February 1st, 2017 for $280,000. Comparable 4 has a roll number of 0400705260. The date of sale was on August 12th, 2014, sold for $380,000. Comparable 5 has a roll number of 040072555785, a date of sale of August 10th, 2015, and a sale price of $2.910 million. The last comparable 6, has a roll number of 040072555795. It is sold on September 30th, 2015 for $2.3 million. And that's the presentation, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and the range of selling prices per square foot, please?
The range of selling price per square foot is ranging from $17.22 to $26.34 per square foot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Merkel, any questions of the assessor's evidence presented?
No.
No questions? Okay. Mr. Mayor, any questions of the assessor?
I have none at this point, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Carrie, any questions?
I do, I have one question that I neglected to ask on the first round. Mr. Valderrama, on your comparables, did you have a chance to drive by?
Just
Have
the
a look at
Transcona
them.
Boulevard, but just a quick one.
So just the subject property?
Yeah.
So none of the comparables at all?
No.
Can you tell me where Molson Street is located?
Molson Street. Got a map. Molson is by. I might. Oh, it's north west of the subject property. It's north of Grassy Boulevard and west of Highway 59. So it's about, it says here 5 kilometers on the map, about 5 kilometers away.
Thank you.
Well, okay.
Thanks, Carrie. And I have no questions of the assessor. Mr. Merkel, I guess we're going to enter into evidence the original docket that you presented. You would have, you'll be putting this in, Ellen, the original document on which.
I have a copy for each one.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, sir, when you're ready, we're dealing with 110 Transcona Boulevard, and we've got your work up on attachment 4 of your original document. For that relevant one, if you would like to go through your presentation, I think we've got an idea of what happened from the previous.
Yeah, I mean, we're saying we paid 807,877 for that property, and that's what we think the value is.
Okay. So 807, you're asking for 807, rounded 900, okay. Okay. Mr. Valderrama, any questions of the appellant?
None, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Carrie, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Are you, Ron, would you like to go first?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Carrie, are you okay? Oh, you are, okay. Okay, my question is, there's an allowance, or you're asking for the area of easement at 7,411 square feet be removed from the roll due to, is this the hydro line, or would this be the water main?
It's the water main. I'm just getting the right page here. It's the water main. But our actual, we're saying the actual purchase price is the value,
Yeah,
the
okay.
807.
Based on a revised or a square foot of the lot, removing the easement, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, in context of the, we dealt with, I mean, we didn't really deal with each property individually. We said, this is the package, and then we kind of divided it by acre and came up with a number, right?
Because
So
you're showing 61,855 square feet.
that's what that's the total. We took off 74
The
to get
assessors,
to developable area 54, so the assessed value should drop, his assessed value would drop to 878, but we claim, we paid 807 for it, so we're
Okay.
saying 807 is the number.
so you're saying the developable net lot area is 54,444. The assessors assessing you at 54,038 square feet. Is that right, Mr. Valderrama?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so have you moved that, have you removed that easement?
No, I haven't.
You haven't, okay.
No.
No, he's assessing it at 61,885 square feet. Am I right? Correct?
No. Land area assessed is, page one of the brief, is 54,000.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Our numbers are calculated based on the reallocated property lines.
okay. Okay,
That's why.
okay. All right. And just out of curiosity, are these easements all registered on the titles? Yeah, from Hydro and from the Water Service Board. All right, good. All right. Any requirement for a summary, Mr. Valderrama?
Not at the moment.
Mr. Merkel? You okay? Okay. I think we've got an understanding what you're asking for and the reason why. Okay. All right. That concludes 110 Transcona Boulevard. Next property in the docket, 120 Transcona Boulevard. Mr. Valderrama, when you're ready, if you would just give us the details on the subject property and on your comparisons, maybe just a summary of selling prices per square foot of your evidence. That would
Thank
be
you, Mr.
good.
Chair.
Thank you.
And the next property has a roll number of 04007261525. It's located at 120 Transcona Boulevard. And we're dealing with an assessed value of $1,305,000, given a reference date of April 1st, 2018, and this is for the roll year of 2020. Property type is vacant residential 2, with a zoning of RMU or residential mixed use. That's a land area of 89,478 square feet. On page 5 are the land sale comparables. They're all ranging from $17.22 to $26.34 per square foot. And that's the presentation, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Merkel, any questions of the assessor?
No.
Okay. Carrie, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ron, any questions?
I have one question, because I'm just looking at Mr. Merkel's attachment number 5, and the square footage in that is put there, there seems to be a little discrepancy. Yes. Okay, maybe it's a typing error. No, it's not.
Yeah,
Okay.
the discrepancy is that when we prepared this chart, we used the square footages based on our new subdivided lines.
Yeah, I
Not
know.
on
Yeah, so,
his subdivided square footage.
okay.
So we took the square footages and multiplied it by the assessed.
Yeah, so.
We just said we paid $1,035,000 for that property, that lot 1, right?
Yeah, so when we're looking at this, I mean,
It's a little confusing.
It's, yeah, so I'm just trying to
I
sort
understand.
of make the figures jive.
Yeah.
Like if you look at rule number 1520, 1520, hang on, 1520, it shows your square footage in there at 64,668. And according to the city, the land is 54.
Yeah, so that,
So-
that center part, if you go to the back, if you go to my attachment 3.
So, okay.
Those, this area in the middle, we moved the property lines subsequent.
Okay.
And that's where the property lines are in
Okay.
2020.
So when we're trying to calculate things, I mean,
Yeah, if you're going like per foot, we looked at it as purchase price per acre.
yeah, I looked at both. I looked at the price per square foot, and I looked at per acre, and it's all over the map.
Yeah, so we,
Okay, leave it, okay, I just, wanted to be sort of consistent.
yeah,
Okay, I thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think.
You're welcome.
Gary, any questions?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Okay, so, to the point here, Mr. Valderrama is assessing at 89,478. If we add the subject property at regarding the attachment 4 from the appellant, we got 64,000 plus an easement allowance of 20,800, brings us to 84,800, which is very close to the original square footage of the lot, according to the assessor. So, Mr. So, as Mr. Merritt said, how many square feet are we dealing with here, hypothetically, if we do an adjustment? Because we're a difference of less the easement of 50%. You're saying the lot's 43,000 square feet, the assessor's saying the lot without the easement recognized is 89,000, double the size.
because we moved the property lines. I mean, if you take 6207 divided by the total square footage of 475.
Yeah, that's what you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's saying the lot,
The assessor, the assessor's at,
89,000.
well, I get a figure of 426.8 square feet. 4,026,896 square feet. That's what the assessor's at. And you are at,
Well, he's at are we looking at lot 3?
in total. I wrote that. You know what, it's, never mind.
Before subdivision.
We'll deal with it.
We basically said we paid 1306 per square foot for that property.
But you see, we're dealing with individual appeals on
No,
each
I
property.
understand, I understand.
And we have to be accurate with this individual assessment.
Right, so we assessed each property at 1306 per square foot.
But how many square feet? You're saying.
Well, his
40
square footage would be right. Because he's taken the area of that lot and he's timesing it by the number of feet. So his foot calculations are correct.
But, okay, my
Yeah.
point is that you're saying the original lot size on 120 Transcona Boulevard, according to attachment 4, is 64,033 square feet. Then you've applied an adjustment for unusable area, in your opinion, of 20,000.
Okay, but, Robert,
Yes.
if you look at 8.5 acres,
Mhm.
and you divide that by the purchase price of 6,207,000,
Mhm.
it gives you a price per acre of 730,235,
Right,
okay, per acre.
but what's our actual lot size?
Yeah,
Mr. Valderrama, as far as you're aware, it's 89,000 square feet with no adjustment for easements.
No.
And Mr. Merkel, you're saying the original lot size before adjustments for easements is only 64,000.
Because
20,000.
I moved the property lines in 2020.
So,
Like in 2019, we moved, so we're at,
so Mr. Valderrama's not aware that there's been changes in lot size? Would that be fair?
yeah, in 2019.
They haven't, you haven't reassessed the lots,
They haven't replotted.
replotted.
It's just gone through land.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you were to take his 89, you would,
The easement stays the same, you're asking for the adjustment of 20,881, would that be fair? Yeah, okay, okay.
like, I mean, we paid 1306 a foot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but,
If you take it over the total square
Yeah.
footage, so I don't see, I guess our point is the lot 1 and 2 less desirable than on the one side of the road than,
Yeah.
we didn't treat it that way, we treated it as a package
Yeah.
yeah,
and said,
Yeah.
but we're looking at it individually.
no,
We
I
have to
understand,
determine
I
that.
didn't
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because we had correspondence with, we kind of talked on gross price, look, we paid 6.2 million.
yeah, okay. Okay, Mr. Valderrama, I'm gonna ask you a question. What is your policy, if the lot is 89,000 square feet, according to your details right now, that's what we're dealing with, although it
Policy in terms of what?
easements. If there's a registered easement on that property for, and the appellant's saying it's around 21,000 square feet, would you remove that from the value for a hydro line, for instance?
Well, I'm not really sure. The property is the property. I think that's how it is. But then in terms of easements,
Yeah. Is it the power line that this is affected?
This is a water main,
Oh, this is a water main.
which
yeah.
is
I haven't.
almost more onerous than the hydro line.
I'm not really too sure 100% on
Okay.
cases like these.
Okay.
I
Okay.
cannot speak to it on the record. I'm not sure how.
No, fair
it
enough.
is, so,
Yeah,
Yeah.
the board will weigh the issues here and,
sure, yeah.
all right, okay. So, in summary, Mr. Merkel is asking for 836,300 and the assessor's at $1,305,000, okay. And we're dealing with different lot size. Okay. All right. That concludes 120 Transcona Boulevard. Next property, 130 Transcona Boulevard. Mr. Valderrama, when you are ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next property has a roll number of 04-007261515. It's located at 130 Transcona Boulevard. We're dealing with an assessed value of $1,098,000 for the roll year of 2020, given a reference date of April 1st, 2018. Has a property type of vacant residential 2 and a zoning of RMU, which is residential mixed use. Has a land area of 70,812 square feet. On page 5 are the land sale comparables. They're all ranging from $17.22 to $26.34 sale price per square foot. And that's my presentation for this property, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Merkel, any questions of the assessor?
No,
Okay. Ron, any questions?
Have none, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. Carrie, any questions?
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Just bear with me 1 second, please. Okay. So again, Mr. Valderrama's at 70,812 square feet, and we've got a change in size, 61,000 originally, okay. Assessors at 70,812. All right. I have no questions. Mr. Merkel, when you're ready, please, I guess we're going to attachment 4, 130 Transcona Boulevard.
so we're saying the value of that property is $796,499. But if we were to use his square footage, we would times it by 1306 and say that would be the value of that property, if we stay on the same square footage.
and you would, using the assessor square footage, you would ask we make it at 1306 a square foot?
Well, that's, if you take our 6207
Yeah.
divided by, that's
Okay,
the whole over, we're saying the value is 1306 per acre.
okay. All right.
Ignoring any easements, because his gross
Yeah.
area is 475,000, I believe.
Yeah. And you're asking for an easement allowance of 17,666.
Right.
That one. Okay.
But that easement allowance was only to see how I got from his number to our number.
Okay.
Because like I'm new to this process, but I'll say this, if they've got a number and I have a number, how do you justify the difference? If you take the easement area out of it,
Well, begs the question, Mr. Valderrama, is somebody gonna visit this property and adjust, accurately assess the square footages that are present? I guess there's a permit out to, for a replot on the land? Was there a permit taken?
I believe the filing of the new milers and creates
Yeah.
new titles, which will generate a replot
Yeah,
in 2019.
okay, so they'll be out to
Yeah. And now-
revisit the property eventually, yeah, okay. All right. Okay, that concludes 130, okay, 140 Transcona Boulevard. Mr. Valderrama, when you're ready?
Mr. Chair, 140?
Yes.
Okay. Next property has a roll number of 04007261-520. It is located at 140 Transcona Boulevard. This is assessed at $1,064,000. Given a reference date of April 1st, 2018 for the roll year of 2020. It is vacant residential 2 and zoned RMU, residential mixed use, and has a land area of 54,049 square feet. On page 5, we have the land sale comparables. They're ranging from $17.22 up to $26.34 sale price per square foot. And that's my presentation for this property, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Merkel, any questions of the assessor?
No.
Okay. Carrie, any questions? Ron?
Thank you.
Okay, so now we've gained 10,000 square feet from, you're assessing them at 54,049, and the appellant's saying he's got 64,469, so I guess some of that square footage is shifted over due to a replot, yeah, okay. Okay, Mr. Merkel, would you like to go through your evidence on attachment 4, please?
Yeah, I think our value is 842 based on our averaging out the sales price.
Okay. Mr. Valderrama, any questions of the appellant?
None at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Carrie, any questions?
No questions, thank
Thank you. And Ron, any questions?
No, thank you.
And I have no questions either. So that concludes 140 Transcona Boulevard. Next property on the docket is 150 Transcona Boulevard. Mr. Valderrama, when you're ready, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next property has a roll number of 04007261-510. It's located at 150 Transcona Boulevard. This is assessed at $1,008,000 with a reference date of April 1st, 2018, and a roll year for the roll year of 2020. It is a vacant residential 2, zone RMU, which is residential mixed use, with a land area of 50,254 square feet. On page 5 are the land sale comparables. The range of sale price per square foot is from $17.22 up to $26.34. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Merkel, any questions of the assessor's evidence?
So I guess the question I have, the assessor, is given if you would have had understood the joint venture relationship and the board make up? And everything that was discussed here today, would you still believe it was a non-arm's length sale?
It is still a non-arm's length, in my opinion. I mean, not because it was my first opinion, but because, I mean, with the full understanding that parties involved aren't somehow related. Going by the definition of non-arm's length deal, or an arm's length deal, one of the conditions would be unrelated parties. But of course, I mean, a lot of things may happen even though they're related, but to me, the way I see it is still an arm's length deal. It's still, that's my opinion. I mean, it may be different for anyone in the panel, or of course, you have a different opinion, but
Well, the
yeah,
definition of
still-
arm's length is that there's
and it's in the
somebody
market.
that you can't have, the parties aren't related. I'm not related to the city of Winnipeg.
No.
Right? So by
what-
definition, it's an
Mhm.
arm's length. The operation and the board is a 1/3, 2/3 vote, so it's an arm's length deal. So to not consider that, you know, this is a transaction as true in market value as you can find it, because it was between arm's length parties. The city's got no vested interest in my business, and I have no vested interest in their business.
Right, and I understand that concern. However, still, the question remains, the 50% owner, the other owner is still related to the buying party or the purchaser. And I'm still in that opinion that, you know, there's still a relationship between the seller and the buyer. And knowing that, you know, it didn't get out of the open market, being, you know, marketed, and not much enough buyers or sellers out there of the same product. It all boils down to if it's a market transaction or not. That's how I see it, one of which is an arm's length transaction. So, yeah, I'm still in an opinion where it's still a non-arm's length, given all the information that were given in this hearing today.
Okay, that's his opinion, how's that?
Very-
Simple as that,
It's-
you've got your
yeah.
opinion.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. And we shall decide, we'll consider all the evidence presented.
So is
Yeah.
I guess it's my turn to present. My question to you guys is, if we were to really, we take his square footages less the easement areas times 13.06 per each property, and that's our value.
Yeah, okay.
That's the long and short of it.
Yeah. Because, to be honest with you, it sounds like there's gonna be, and I'll ask Mr. Valderrama, when you receive the titles with different square footages, what would your process be, and,
I haven't worked on a lot of land
Yeah.
yet to experience those kinds of scenarios. However, I have encountered, as an example, a right-of-way, it's an easement. And I saw how it was mapped on our mapping tool, and there is this strip of land going to the property at the back. So, I mean, that's just the farthest experience I ever had. And it's not even an experience, I just saw it by
Yeah.
accident.
when, I guess.
So I guess it's, in that example, you can see that it was removed from different parcels.
So a reassessment was done, and a supplementary assessment
I
was
believe so.
issued.
I believe
So the property, I think the long and short of it is, if there's change in its square footage, there's gonna be an assessor visit the property, visually or otherwise, and reassess it based on revised square footages, and you're gonna get a supplementary assessment theoretically effective to the date that it was changed or within the same year, and you're gonna have different values put on the properties. And you've got the option to appeal within so many days from receiving that supplementary assessment.
Like,
So,
I would say there's
Fair
also
enough.
a process of replot. I mean, there's an application, and then
Yeah.
it will be filed, and the exact square
Yeah, we've
footages
been
and the
through
configuration.
this on this, when it went from
Yeah.
one big
That's
city
it.
yard
Yeah.
to subdivided.
Oh, yes, so,
And-
yeah.
so I think the assessor is saying you can
But for
expect.
purposes of this exercise,
Yeah.
I'm appealing and based on saying my fair value, that I paid is the fair value at $13.06
Yeah,
on
yeah,
average per
we
acre.
understand,
And if I take his acres, I would recompute his acreages at 13.06 and say that's the value for each piece
Well,
of
the
property.
panel understands the circumstance here, it's changed, your evidence is representing the change. We have to weigh what we're gonna do with it, to be honest with you. And we're gonna discuss your
The simplest way to
evidence
get
presented.
to go apples to apples would be to take my 13.06 and apply it to.
Yeah, we understand. Yeah, that's our challenge. We're gonna consider your sale and the assessor's evidence, and we'll decide what we're gonna do with it, yeah. Okay, so that concludes 150 Transcona Boulevard. Now, 160 Transcona,
If I may, Mr. Chair, just delete the recommendation, because it was a template and I wasn't able to.
Oh, okay, so
Sorry
there
about
is,
that. Yeah.
so there is no,
None.
so the assessor is removing the request for burden of proof be changed. That was an error on the brief.
Yes.
Okay, so we're just dealing with the 2020 realty assessment for 160 Transcona Boulevard. When you're ready, Mr. Valderrama.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next property has a roll number of 04007261505. It's located at 160 Transcona Boulevard. It is assessed at $1,359,000, given a reference date of April 1st, 2018 for the roll year of 2020. It is a vacant residential 2 with a zoning of RMU, or residential mixed use. It has a land area of 94,470 square feet. On page 5, we have the land sales comparables, which ranges from $17.22 to $26.34, sale price per square foot. And that's my presentation for this property, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Valderrama. Mr. Merkel, any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
This is one where the property line did not change, so he's at 50,094 and we're at 50,254 square feet, and we have 50,094.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions of the assessor, Ron?
No, thank you.
Carrie, any questions?
Well, I just have one question in regards to your feeling that this isn't an arm's length. So when any citizen of the city enters into a business deal of this sort, because I don't think this is the first time the city has sold off property, correct?
Yes, correct.
So is it always considered by your department to be not arm's length?
I am in an opinion where this is not an arm's length deal, simply because if I look at the buyers and the sellers, the parties involved, basically, in the transaction, that's one of the things that I look at. There is a 50-50 ownership between the City of Winnipeg and the current owner during that time that they sold it, or then before they sold it. When they sold it, it's still a 50-50 joint venture. So basically, the way I see it is, well, who knows what really is the market value for this one when it went out to the market, and if there were no joint venture. The city sells off
But,
properties
Sorry, it did
on
have
its own.
it did have an independent appraisal.
Yes, it did. And I'm not sure, without reading the appraisal, what's in it. Did it consider the contamination in its valuation? Did it consider other things? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not privy to that information, and I would love to see it. I would like to see it, but I mean, I don't have a copy of it, and I don't have a review of it, or I didn't review it. It may have been. It could be a good valuation from an appraiser. I'm not. I won't deny that. But however, without seeing the limitations, the scope, and the entire appraisal of it, I don't know what's in it. Yes, the valuation is there, and I leave it up to you. Your good hands, what to decide on the valuation side. However, I'm still, in my opinion, it's still a non-arm's length deal in my view.
Okay, so,
However,
sorry, I
this
just
is a-
wanted to,
this-
I just wanted
go
to be
ahead.
clear on something then, sorry, so this is your opinion then, that it's not an arm's length? It's not something that,
non-arm's length.
so it's not something that your department has a policy on?
No, I mean, as an assessor, I can look at things and I can assess
Okay.
things from, well, I
Okay.
shouldn't say assess, I could have my view on how the transaction is, the way I see it, without any other information. The information that I have is, you know, the vendors, the purchasers, that's all they have, the date, which was provided, the amount. And in terms of a citizen buying a property from the city, yes, it happens, and this is a different one, whereas there's another case where the city on its own sells the property to a business, to an individual, without any joint ventures. So that's a different scenario as well. In that case, then, and I also look at land sales. I mean, it may be a little weak, but I mean, land sales in that area ranging from this much to this much, the same almost within, or the subject properties tied in between the small and the big pieces of land.
Right.
So, yeah, I try to look at a lot of factors, not just, you know, the actual sale of it. And, yeah, that's it.
Okay. Just one last quick question. So to the best of your knowledge, when the city enters into joint ventures of this nature, they don't have an independent body that oversees the sale then?
I'm not sure, I don't know that.
Okay.
The question is if there is an independent body that oversees the transaction of sales and all those. I'm not sure what the process is, to be honest.
Okay.
And, yeah, I'm sorry I don't have that information too.
It's fine, thank
Yeah.
you. That's all my questions.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair.
Okay, and I have no questions. Mr. Merkel, so we're gonna just go to attachment 4 there. If you wouldn't mind presenting your estimate of value, please.
So 150, Transcona Boulevard,
160 we're on.
160.
Yeah.
And the last one, you're at?
Yeah.
So we, doing our calculation, put 1.2 value on it because we did the by acre, not by the foot. If I was to apply by the foot, then it would have to be 1306 times the 94, which would still come to my number because I'm using the value by, divided by acre, not by foot.
Okay, so you're asking us to revise the assessment to $1 million, rounded $235,000.
Which is ludicrous under this whole thing because I would be increasing his assessment.
No, he's sitting at $1,359,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. For 160, yeah. So you're asking for a reduction of $120,000 based on your sales evidence of the subject property for the package. Yeah. Okay. Any requirement for a summary, Mr. Valderrama?
No, not.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Merkel, I think you've got a clear picture of what you're asking for. You've got the selling purchase price, and you've done an analysis based on a purchase price. And anything else you'd like to say?
I just, like, non-arm's length, arm's length is defined if somebody doesn't control. And 50-50, we don't control, and we don't control the board. So
Yeah, okay.
if you would, I can only say, and I know the scrutiny this thing went under and the painfulness of getting this approved was not an easy thing. And so I paid 6.2, and it was agreed by the CAO of the city. And if that's not, that he wasn't even on the board. So that is as independent as somebody to this transaction could be.
Okay.
And I just think that, you know, a lot of time could have been saved if we would just what arm's length is. So,
I guess one question I have to ask is,
Yeah.
were there any fees involved? Selling fees or anything involved in the purchase?
There's no commission.
No commission?
There was no commission.
Okay.
because we bought it. If we didn't use an independent agent.
Okay, all right. Leave all of them with us, and that concludes our hearing for today. Thank you very much for appearing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.